Well, evening YouTubers. It's another lovely sunny evening, so we thought we'd make the most of it and get together and go out for another little ride round. Not sure where we're going to go yet. I think we're going to head out over to Froome Way, and I'm just on my way now towards Shaftesbury to meet up with Ben, who couldn't make the last one unfortunately, and Rory again. We're hoping his bike's going to be okay, because he's managed to leave it parked in the garage for the last couple of days with the side light on. So he only discovered that at lunchtime today, and the battery was completely dead. So it's been on charge all afternoon, and hopefully it won't let us down this evening. Although it's nice and sunny, it's quite windy tonight. It's quite gusty. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. The trees are having a good old wave as we go past. But glorious sunshine, and living as I do in England, you've got to make the most of it when it's out. It's most of the time it doesn't seem to be, but generally when it does come out, it's fantastic. You know, fantastic scenery. We're really lucky to live in this part of the world. We're just coming up on the meeting point, Ivy Cross roundabout, Shaftesbury. I think that's Ben sat on the wall. So we're all gassed up. Rory didn't want to switch his bike off in case it didn't restart, so I think it's just going to be a sort of circuit route with no stops. Yeah. So I don't know if the camera picked that up, but it was just to say that Ben's, that's a brand new Yamaha Tenerre or whatever they call them. He's still running it in. So even though it's a 750, he couldn't keep up with me going past the truck. So we get a glimpse across the countryside as we're going along. So if anyone's interested, this is the A350. We're between Warminster and Shaftesbury, nearer to Warminster at the moment, and we're just about to drop down off the hills in towards Warminster. So the village we're coming into now at Longbridge Deverell, there's a pub in the middle of the village called the George, and I don't expect they'll be having it this year, but every year they have a sort of custom classic car bike show outside the pub, because they've got a field out in front of it, which we'll see in a minute as we go past. And it's free to get in, only hold on one evening. It's normally, I think, the week of the August bank holiday, and it's rammed, you know, and there's all sorts here, from World War II Willys, Jeeps, bikes. It's in this field here, just as we're going past, and here's the pub, the George. Oh, looks like we're turning off. But for next year, definitely worth looking out for that show, the Noggin, Nosh and Natter it's called, at the George in Monkton Deverell. So just coming into a little town called Bruton now. I don't think we're going to go past it because it's in the one-way system, but there's a pub here called The Sun, and I went there 30 years ago with the ex-wife and a girl from where I was working at the time and her husband, and we were in there having a few drinks, and at the time I was smoking and I was rolling my own cigarettes. Dropped my tobacco tin on the floor, and the pub dog was on it like a flipping tramp on chips, and ate me backy. Couldn't believe it. The whole lot went down in one go. He must have been as sick as a dog, as they say. Oh. where we're heading for now is a place called Alfred's Tower, which is just off the Stourhead estate. And I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's on there's a ridgeline of trees in front of us, and hopefully we'll get a better view in a minute. But it's a folly built on the Stourhead estate, a huge brick tower, which overlooks the escarpment over towards the Blackmore Vale. There's the tower there. I don't know if you can see it on that ridge line on the horizon, but it's enormous. I don't know how high it is, but it's hundreds of feet. You know, it's a massive feature of the landscape around here. And there it is, right in front of us. Look. And during the Second World War, there was an American, well, it started off as British, and I think it went through Canadian and American hands, but there's an airfield at Zeals, and over the course of the war there were several, you know, different types of planes stationed there, everything from fighters to bombers to transport planes for D-Day. And unfortunately, one of the planes, and I think it was an American one, struck the tower. And you can still see the scar on the tower today where the bricks have been replaced. Unfortunately, the crew, I think, were all wiped out. It's bad weather or poor visibility, and this thing, as you can see, sticks out way above the trees, so it's the highest point for quite a long way around, and the plane ploughed square on into it, and yeah, it's tragic. That's not the only plane crash in the area either. On the other side of Zeals, heading down towards Mere, there was a transport plane there, came down, poor visibility in bad weather, and just taken off from the airfield at Zeals and was turning to head north, and he misjudged his altitude somehow and hit one of the knolls there, and the plane broke up and everyone on board was killed. It was a transport plane taking off-duty servicemen up north so that they could travel back to Canada, and unfortunately the entire complement on the plane was killed, but the pilot survived. And he never, I don't think he ever really came to terms with that, and he very sadly later took his own life. But yeah, quite a sad story. It's worth doing a bit of exploring around here if you're into that kind of sort of history. There's a few places like that. They're marked with plaques, and so that they duly get remembered. There's an awful lot of history around here that's recent history for the Second World War. That's if you didn't know it was there, you could quite easily just pass it on by. With the airfields, and there are several bunkers dotted around, and all the old camps, and some of the old army roads that were built to service those camps during the war. Well, they're all still in use, and people just use them as rights of way and don't think about it. But yeah, it's had quite an effect on the landscape around here, because of course the build up to D-Day there was massive troop concentrations, and of course the RAF and the American Air Force all flew sorties from early on in the war from southern England, so there were an awful lot of airfields dotted about. We're just climbing up the hill towards the tower now. You can see the tower there. I don't think it's open to the public anymore. It was open for a while, and it's a triangular shaped sort of aspect to it, and on each point of the triangle, as it were, there's a circular abutment, I guess you'd call it, something like that, and inside one of them was a spiral staircase that you could climb all the way to the top. There were no internal floors other than the ground floor and the roof, which was open in the middle, so you could walk around at the top, and the views from up there were absolutely incredible. You can see for miles and miles and miles. But as I say, I don't think it's been open to the public for quite some time, so I think it's just a home to pigeons and things like that these days.